on Kane! It's 1-0. We're fucking down. 13th in the championship. The takeover happened as I said it would. People will be... Oh, when have we got Leeds? Now then, people, welcome back to the Just Your live stream, Just Your football show. It is a live stream though. This is an impromptu one. I'm going to be ranting about the current state of the managerial merry-go-round in football. It's actually really pissing me off, if I'm being totally honest. I have a bee in my bonnet about it. I don't understand it. Like, it seems if you have had any type of working relationship with Pep Guardiola, you're guaranteed a top job anyway. And of course, there are, there's successors. I believe Arteta's a success of that. You could argue Enzo is as well. But look, I say it tongue-in-cheek, but my point is, and I know my camera's on a mad one, but I like it, all right? So just stick with it. Anyway, I put out another tweet because another madness, and this guy hasn't had a relationship with Pep, but Wayne Rooney's now been linked to Plymouth Argyle, right? And I know some might watch this and say, well, that's not a similar type of club as a Chelsea, or that's not a similar type of club as, a Bayern Munich, for example, which we'll get into with Kompany on his way to Bayern and Enzo on his way to Chelsea, yada, yada, yada. But I still think, what's Wayne Rooney done to deserve a job at Plymouth? A Plymouth that stayed up, looked like they were doing bits, have a young squad, seem to be making some good acquisitions, have then gone and turned to Wayne Rooney to fix their problems. For me, it's a bigger issue. Like why people like Steven Gerrard or Frank Lampard being the main point, get these jobs in the first place. Vincent Kompany, I don't think he was great at Anderlecht. He does great at Burnley, gets them back up. Shite in the Premier League, by the way. And then has gone at Bayern. I know firsthand from a Burnley fan, she won't mind me saying, in a group chat, is so annoyed because Burnley, rather than sticking with Kompany, for example, could have pushed the button and maybe looked to get a manager in that might have kept them in the league, a la Sam Allardyce type, David Moyes type, them type of managers. But they said, no, do you know what? Let's stay true to Vincent Kompany. They've been relegated. What's he done? He's jumped on the first plane to Germany, and now what for Burnley? It's pissed me off. Wayne Rooney's basically had a big hand in taking Birmingham down, and has now landed, or is about to land, a championship job. The wildest one of all is Enzo to Chelsea. Even Kieran McKenna. I sort of get Kieran McKenna. I like what he's doing. But to Chelsea? Already? Really? The owners are fucking mad. Maybe it's a bigger picture of how poor the manager pool is right now, that they're having to turn to these players. But, riddle me this, right? Had Vincent Kompany, had he never played at Manchester City, I used to say this during the season, the amount of times he went with no criticism from the British media, by the way, because they look after their mate. No criticism from Jamie Carragher. No criticism from Gary Neville on Vincent Kompany. They were ready to criticise, Sheffield United, Luton, but there was never really any criticism for Burnley. Why was that? Because it was Vinny Kompany won at Lads. And now he's somehow got the Bayern job. I genuinely don't understand it. Anyway, I put out a tweet. What's going on here? Why is Wayne Rooney going to Plymouth? And then Gabe messaged me and went, Joe, honestly, my head's hot. And I know Gabe can be quite passionate like myself. So I said, you know what, let's do a stream together. So without further ado, let me bring him in. Sorry, I did rant for a little bit there. Let's bring in Gabe. Gabe, how are you, my man?
I'm great. What I think we should do, Joe, is, those opening credits you have for your live show, your content. Let's just submit that to a big club and see if it gets us a job. Just gets you a job. I'm appointing myself as your assistant manager here. I'm not even in the video. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, because honestly, what absolute piss take this is.
Yeah, it's mad.
Like, on one hand, it's sort of jobs for the boys, isn't it, when it comes to folks like Rooney? But for Maresca and McKenna, I mean, it does seem like the ownership has gone mad. I listened to what you were saying about, but I mean, you've got managers that are either available or could easily be hired. You've got Conte. He could be hired. You got Mourinho. He could be hired. Thomas Tuchel, he's out of a job now. Mauricio Pochettino's out of a job. Hansi Flick, you could bring in if you wanted to. So we'll get into it. But I think what we're seeing is that owners are wanting a little bit more ownership over how the manager conducts himself. And
Yeah.
I think that's a bad thing for the game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. I mean, I don't think any of us imagine, mate, by any stretch of the imagination that I don't think. Look, I watch a lot of content. Yeah, exactly. But even just on the Chelsea situation, like I watch a lot of fan content. It's what I enjoy, right? They've all been shouting Poch out. Quite a large section of the Chelsea fan base have wanted Poch out, right? And then I watch them afterwards and they say, who do you want? And they're going, I want Hansi Flick. I want Tommy Tuchel returning. You know, Zidane always gets fucking mentioned in all these top jobs.
Hasn't worked since 2021.
Yeah,
he doesn't seem to want to.
and when he did work, by the way, and I'm not, Zidane may be amazing, but when he did work, he had arguably the best players in world football at his disposal. Can he do it elsewhere? Remains to be seen. There's a reason why he's not taking jobs, in my opinion, but hey, it is what it is. But my point is, they say all these names, and then we see Thomas Frank, Kieran McKenna, and Enzo Maresca being linked with the Chelsea job. It's mental. It is mental.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what's interesting is that we think in football where you're from doesn't matter and shouldn't matter, but it does. It does.
100%.
It's pretty clear to me that depending on who the ownership is, I mean, yes or no, Joe, could you ever imagine Bayern Munich appointing an Italian manager?
Well, what can you explain that to me? Because that's why they said, right, they don't want De Zerbi because they don't want an Italian. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Do we know why that is?
Listen, I'm not like a connoisseur of Bayern Munich. So I don't really know. I haven't like scoured, and it would have been disingenuous of me to like jump into their history of all their managers to see if they've ever had an Italian. They may have, they may not have. It doesn't sound like they have. I think the concerning thing for me is that, and again, it's not about like, oh, you have to be German, although the board of Bayern Munich is very, very, incredibly German. Obviously, Vincent Kompany is, not German. That being said, it does seem to be, it's really weird that like if you're an Englishman, you'll be connected in some of the big jobs like Manchester United. That seems to be, there were talks about Southgate. I don't know how you feel about him as an international coach, but I'd be hard pressed to qualify him for one of the top jobs in domestic football.
No.
Kieran McKenna, I think that's, listen, we can all tip our caps to him and say what a good job he's done with Ipswich. But coaching Ipswich, players that are going to listen to your instructions and players who have been greater than the sum of their parts, we have to say.
100%.
Not to say they're not a talented squad, but top to bottom, there aren't a lot of names that really jump out off the team sheet for you to say, oh my God, what an unbelievable treasure trove of talent they have there. It's not fair to say they've overachieved, but it is fair to say that McKenna has done an amazing job with those players, 2 promotions in a row. But it's very, and Wayne Rooney. We just have to come back to him. This is a player who at Birmingham. Excuse me. That's the only way I think about him because he's not a manager. 13% win record of Birmingham City. 13%. Let's be clear. He is the reason they've been relegated. He is the reason. 100%. Horrific. I mean, DC United. Listen, DC United now. I don't know if you know about MLS, but it gets broken up into 2 conferences. It's not a single table. But in their conference now, they're mid-table. Right. And if you put all the points together and combine the conferences, they would be mid-table. They're not a great team, but they've got Christian Benteke. They've got, obviously, they've got Cleek. They've got a number of decent players. Wayne Rooney had them out of the playoff spots in the bottom 4. He had a 26% win record at DC United. I don't know how you get opportunities in the 2nd division of English football with that kind of win record. 28% at Derby County, and that's the crown jewel in his crown.
And let's be honest, we know now that really was Liam Rosenior pulling the strings.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
A 26% career win record. I know some people don't love it when I get into like what they feel are esoteric statistics, but the reality is win records like what defines you as a manager. To compare, Jesse Marsh has a 34% win record. Neither of us rate Jesse Marsh.
No, not
how in the world, if you're a chairman, and so I looked into it. Plymouth Argyle. I mean, Simon Hallett. He's an English chairman, although he is based in America. The 5 directors are on their board of directors. There is one American, and Nick Giannotti. I don't see much of an American link, so I don't understand what obviously Wayne Rooney. I think I'm trying to say American because American owners is certainly everyone looks at Clear Lake and Todd Bowley and thinks, oh, this is why, they're making these bonkers appointments. But honestly, I mean, I can't account for it. I can't account for what's happening in the space right now. To link a guy like Thomas Frank, who's a good manager. I rate him as a manager.
Yeah, I like Frank, yeah.
But it's one thing to be managing Brentford with one of the best strikers in English football, to go to the Chelsea job where, they had three managers in a single season. I mean, I know that Pochettino's the manager all season this year, but between this and last season, what was it? 3 managers? 4.
Yeah, Lampard, weren't it? Tuchel and
unbelievable.
Potter as well.
The only thing I can think of, Joe, is what seems to be the case. And we can look at Bayern Munich as a case in point. Now, just want to flag for everybody that Bayern operate very differently than the ownership model in England and in most leagues. By the way, this is a team that in a club that generated profit for 27 seasons in a row. It's unprecedented. They are run like a corporation. In fact, most of their board members are, ranking members for Adidas and Audi and Allianz and all these German companies, right? Yeah. So it's a very different structure. But it's pretty clear that Nagelsmann was forced out because of clashes he had with Oliver Kahn and other decision makers. Player power is massive at Bayern Munich. Most of the board members used to play for the club. And with Thomas Tuchel can't get along with anybody after 12 months. So it's pretty clear that they're going in the direction of maybe what they're looking at, and I don't agree with their decision, by the way. I think it's a bad appointment with Kompany. Yeah. But I think what they're looking at is, right, when he was in the championship, he had the Bayern Munich of the championship, the best team by far, had them playing great football, probably is a good manager, had a good reputation as a player, and somebody that probably won't give us a lot of guff. Will generally do what we tell him to do. Yeah. And it does seem, if you're going to appoint McKenna at Manchester United or at Chelsea, or Maresca, if you're going to appoint Wayne Rooney, you're probably going with Kompany then, aren't you? Or people that would feel fortunate to be there.
Yeah.
When you look at these guys, I mean, Xavi, you have to think the only reason he gets appointed at Barcelona, and I know he's on the way out now, it's because he's Catalan,
Yeah, of course.
Like Zidane could walk, but how many of these managers? Why do you not appoint Mourinho? Well, you don't appoint Mourinho because you don't want to have to fight with your manager 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Those managers I listed, like Conte, I know Flick is gone, but Tuchel, Pochettino, these are guys that have tailor-made excuses as to why it didn't work already, and they're ready to blame the board. It looks like ownership groups are saying now, all right, well, we're going to hire somebody who we're going to take a risk on. At the end of the day, as long as we make money and our bottom line is okay, and the Glazers are about that. Clear Lake is about that. Bayern is about that to some degree. That seems to be the model. I don't think it's great for football, but maybe a disruption in management is what we need. Maybe in some weird way,
this is what we need. This is disruption.
I think it's an overcorrection, probably.
It's mad. Yeah. Like Nunny, who's a Plymouth Argyle fan, obviously watched throughout this season, says Rooney out already. Apparently he's good mates with the director of football who picks all the managers, and they're all Scouse. Apparently they rejected Paul Heckingbottom for Rooney because he's mates with our director of football. I did see it said, I think he worked with the Everton Academy, the director of football at Plymouth, and that's probably how the links. But Rooney's obviously doing something right behind the scenes, a bit like Marsh used to when he talked himself into jobs. But from what I've seen of Wayne Rooney's football and his management ability,
abysmal,
and this is only going to end up one way for Plymouth for me. I genuinely don't understand the appointment on the Bayern Munich thing as well. Like Dr. Cox, I hear he's a young manager and he could do well at Bayern, but my problem is, like, he doesn't deserve the job though. This is Bayern Munich. This isn't.
It's one of the top 10, maybe top 5 jobs in world football.
In world football.
To say that he deserves it with a 46% win record is absolutely nonsense.
It's crazy.
The lowest percent, like Nagelsmann had a 73% win record. 73%, and they showed him the door because it wasn't quite good enough, according to them. Mm-hmm. So it's absolutely mad. Could it work? Sure. It could work. And people will point to Xabi Alonso and say, well, but the club that appointed him weren't the same profile. Everybody's surprised with how well he's done. Arteta spent years. He wasn't just a part of the coaching tree for Pep. He spent years as his right hand man, and Arteta was also a world class football. I know it doesn't always translate, but clearly one of the smartest players of his player class. It's not a perfect science, but you want to think that at some point there's a meritocracy. And when you look at these names that are on the list, and I know there are reasons why you could not go with them, but somebody in the chat said people don't agree with them about Conte. I actually agree. Conte is one of the world's best managers.
Of course.
His record is there to be seen. The question is, it looks like the ownership models or the owners are now saying, we don't want to deal with the headache that comes with an ego of a big manager. So we'll bring in a manager who maybe could be there, but it's the opposite of everything that you think about sport, is that, you earned your way into a top job. And if you're the candidates, of course you say yes. Mm-hmm. Of course you say yes, because I heard Simon Jordan today on Talk Sport, who I quite like typically. That'll surprise no one. But
I like him. I think he's great, man. I think he's great.
I think that. But the one thing I really disagree with him on is he's talking about these managers and saying, well, believe in yourself and keep playing your trade, and then one of those big clubs will come calling. Well, you could say that. But up and down, once you're in a particular job, how many big jobs do you think Sean Dyche is going to get offered? Sean Dyche is more qualified for those top jobs. Now, I wouldn't appoint him. I'm not saying I would. But Sean Dyche is more qualified than Kieran McKenna, than Maresca, and probably than Vincent Kompany.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. Honestly, mate, this is what it's failing upwards.
It is.
What I don't understand when the Kompany thing is, right? Yes, did amazing in the Championship. Just like Bielsa did, just like Chris Wilder did before him, Thomas Frank did before. And then they've come up. Bielsa didn't change his style, ended up getting the sacked, right? Chris Wilder, second season, continued in the same vein, got the sack. Thomas Frank actually changed his style. We see a different Brentford from the one we've seen in the Championship. And guess what? Brentford are still a Premier League club, right?
Right.
Burnley and Kompany went, do you know what? Hell to this. We're just going to continue to play our way. Got absolutely battered from pillar to post. Got relegated. And then he's somehow then gone and got the Bayern job. It blows my mind. And you're right in what you're saying. And it comes back to... It all started for me when Lampard was given the Chelsea job and then based on nothing other than the fact he was an ex-player.
I gotta say though, Joe, there has been, and this is sort of
good. Yeah.
Well, this is sort of a joke out here in the States for people that follow the game, is that there's a club of ex-players and kind of friends in the FA that continue to get jobs no matter how poor they've been. Dean Smith, Steve Bruce, just go up and down. For a while, it was what the heck's I'm having a brain cramp here. The ex-Newcastle and Crystal Palace manager. Alan
Pardew.
Pardew, right? Who had mixed success, but ultimately exposed as a fraud everywhere he's been. And this is the case with MLS as well. We have coaches like that get bounced around no matter how poor they are. They always seem to get another job. So it is a thing that happens. And on one hand, I talked about wanting to see a disruption in the managerial spaces where people get opportunities, maybe to take a little bit of risk, but not this. For me, De Zerbi would be a good risk to take.
Yes,
exactly. If I'm the Manchester United board, if I'm the Glazers, I would say, you know what? I think De Zerbi is a good shout, because if we give him what he wants and let him clear out the changing room and institute the style of play he wants and give him some resources, that's fine. But I think what they're looking to do, I think more and more it's becoming about margins and financial margins. And I think they don't want, what you're going to have is if you appoint Conte, if you appoint Tuchel or Mourinho or even Pochettino, you're going to have maybe a year or two, maybe 3 at max, where you're winning some games, but ultimately it's going to go tits up, and you're going to have to pay a massive severance package, and then you're going to be looking for another manager. And the same carousel of managers at the top sort of float around, or you could have these sort of chop and change relegation specialists come in, or you could have these unknown characters that maybe they've caught lightning in a bottle, or maybe they're a bit of a fraud. I think what seems to be happening is some of these larger. I think it just doesn't make sense to me, the size of the club. However, and this is a question I'll pose to you. We know Manchester United as the Manchester United brand that has been around and has all that success under Sir Alex Ferguson and that. The last trophy they won, I think, right? Or did they recently win a trophy with what's his name?
Carabao
Eric Ten Hag.
With Ten Hag, yeah.
Okay, right. So that's still a different degree of, that's like a West Ham level of success if you really compare it to what West Ham have been doing under David Moyes. Are Chelsea and are Man U anymore? That's the question.
Yeah,
are we out of date?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I get that. I get what you're saying. Like, for me, football's cyclical, right? Football goes in cycles. Man United had their time. Look, I think personally, and I hate to say it, Manchester United are on the cusp of, or at least it looks like behind the scenes that Ineos are actually doing things the right way. I think
can't be any worse than how they've been doing them.
Exactly, yeah. Under the Glazers, I do worry because of the appointments they've been making with the Dan Ashworths and stuff behind the scenes. I do think they'll get the right man. Look, I actually rate Kieran McKenna. I do, and I could sort of understand the logic behind him over the rest, but I don't know. Manchester United,
Joe, they already have issues. Those players don't listen to Eric Ten Hag. Do you think they're gonna listen to a guy that's never coached a superstar?
Yeah.
No, never, never. The thing is, like, let's bring up Marsh because we both know Marsh, right? And everybody in the chat knows Marsh. Say what we want about him. Marsh has coached big players. He has, right?
Yeah.
Bit of a snake oil salesman. Definitely, I think could probably be decent at some level. Maybe he does well with Canada. Who knows? It's my personal hell that I'm going to have to see Jesse Marsh in the Copa America this summer. You're going to be laughing the whole time.
Yeah, I'm on USA time during the summer. I've got Euros on the morning, and then I'll be up on a night doing watch along or hate. I'm gonna
get taunting messages all summer. But the point is that appointment makes sense to me, but it doesn't make sense. It just seems that the jump some of these guys are making or poised to make. I'm wondering. It's pretty clear that Todd Bowley doesn't have a clue what he's doing.
No,
right?
Definitely not.
And I know he's not the only one making decisions there anymore, but they apparently have two directors of football now who are sort of competing over decisions. What a dysfunctional way to run a club. Yes. If you're De Zerbi, and again, I'm not necessarily saying De Zerbi is deserving of those jobs, but you have to say, of the group that's been mentioned, he's at least overachieved with a pretty average Brighton side in the Premier League. But at this point, why does it seem like it's either completely untested or a high maintenance, sort of high risk, high profile appointment? It seems to me like none of the guys in the middle, sort of the Edin Terzic's or anything like that, get a sniff because they only seem to be employed in Germany. I think it's weird how nationality seems to play into it. All of a sudden, we just have massive suns come in. Very bizarre. Let me reposition myself here. But do you agree? Does it seem to be? It seems like Chelsea don't care about nationality. It seems like Manchester United really want an English manager. They're talking about Gareth Southgate or McKenna, which just seems ridiculous. Bayern Munich, it's either German or somebody they can control. It's 2024. What a weird framing.
Can you imagine, right? If Kompany wasn't right, and I know, look, he probably wouldn't have even got the job if he wasn't Kompany in the first place. This is my point, right? But
Company man, Vincent Kompany. That's what they want to buy. Ironically named.
Let's say, I don't know, Burnley being managed by Dyche. You mentioned Dyche, right? How in a world, this is what I don't understand. How in a world can a guy who won the championship come up, get relegated the next season, then go and get the Bayern job? This is what I don't... It's purely based on name. Which for me is frustrating because I'm like, why? I don't get it. There's managers out there that will probably deserve the shot over a Vincent Kompany. I really don't understand it. I didn't understand why he wasn't getting criticised in the media all season at all because of the way... And I can call upon the amount of criticism Bielsa got.
Oh yeah,
he got absolutely battered,
and they were happy to criticize him. By the way, it seemed that when the English press got a hold of Bielsa, they wanted to show, they wanted to prove that he was overrated. It's like, and to be honest, I don't know why I keep talking about nationality. It was the top of my head. If Bielsa was English, what do you think they would have said about him?
No, this is the point.
Best manager of the
Vincent Kompany's not English, but he's
kind of a legend in England.
Premier League legend, isn't it?
Yeah,
this is the thing. He's a great Premier League. We
so
can't call Vinny out too much.
More about the league. Maybe it's more about the league. I remember when De Zerbi was appointed. What did Graham Souness say?
Graham Souness, yeah.
What was he on about?
Yeah.
And the thing is, data heads. So people who dabble in data sort of do my head in, because they'll be, if you're not really into analytics, you shouldn't. It's not something you can put like a foot in and foot out of. You have to because they're nuanced, right? And it looks like the folks over at Clear Lake are looking at, okay, how do we want to play, right? All right, so analytics show us this guy Maresca plays this particular way. We really like it. Not, of course, taking in a huge data point that he's never really he didn't overachieve with that team. He did exactly what he should have done. Exactly. And on top of that, how was he
nearly dropped the ball? By the way, Gabe,
100%.
Nearly dropped the ball.
Quantitatively, you can say, "Oh, that's an impressive haul," but without kind of a deep dive into some more of the specifics, the conditions. The same thing with McKenna. So if there's some egghead over at Manchester United who sort of half understands analytics, you might really like the way Ipswich plays. The problem is he's never coached big players, and they can get cracked open by an egg if you play them open. So I don't understand. It feels like we're in the twilight zone. And it's just really strange. I'm sort of loving it in a way, because it's I don't think we'll ever have. This is the year that football ownership went mad.
Mad. Do you know what? Right here, Dominic just mentioned some names, but when you met Iriola, Adoni Iriola, right, is a perfect example, because Iriola is more deserving for me than Enzo Maresca, Vincent Kompany. Wayne Rooney's a different kettle of fish, his championship, but let's just look at what Iriola has done with that Bournemouth side, right? And how they're playing football.
Iriola was somebody they wanted for a while. They identified him through a series of analytics and watching, and they said this guy is the next up and coming big manager.
So why hasn't he been looked at by Bayern? Why hasn't he been looked at by Chelsea? Because he's done a better job than both Kompany and Enzo. The only explanation I have is they used to work with Pep. We want the next Pep.
Yeah,
we want the next Xavi Alonso, for example. Look at what Xavi's done. I mean, he's phenomenal, and obviously it could work. And Vincent Kompany might go and do what he. But it's mad. Maurizio says, I think Bayern are interested in his style of football. The fact he didn't compromise. Yeah, but he went down. I could come in and just have a style of play. If I'm losing games, and I just go, well, I'm still going. What's this
idea that I'm not trying to bag on Maurizio Reyes here, because I understand I like the comment, but I think what's with the glamorization of dying on your sword in football, that be so inflexible that you lose? It's can you imagine you're having a difficult time making rent or whatever the case may be, and someone says, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you a year's wages just to be nice. And you say, no, you know, if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail on my terms. There's nothing honorable about that. It's bizarre. And this idea that you go down with your ship and don't turn, even though there's an iceberg coming, it's bizarre. But it's glamorized in football. I don't think there's anything honorable about not compromising your principles. I mean, our entire fan base has been frustrated at various points of the season with Farke's substitutions. Yeah, and he changed some of them up, not because of us, obviously, but he changed some of them up. Would it have been honorable if we didn't win the playoff because Farke just decided to do the same thing he'd always been doing? And
can you imagine this?
I don't think inflexibility is a virtue.
Had we have got promoted, everyone who wanted him gone might have got the wish, because he might have got linked to the Chelsea job. Because apparently you win the championship or go up automatically. You're good enough. I don't understand it. I genuinely don't, man.
Well, this is a great example, actually. So when you look at Pochettino, right? So Graham Potter has not come back into management, right? He's waiting for the right job. He thinks, and this has been quoted a couple of times, not from him, but lots of people have said, sources on the inside say that he's waiting for another top job because he's got a job at Chelsea, and he thinks now that is the club he deserves. Now, I don't want to bag too much on Graham Potter, because he did pay his dues in the game. Mm-hmm. And I do think that it's weird, because in some ways being English can really help you, and in some ways if you're English but weren't a big player, like nobody seems to care. So Graham Potter really had to go take the long way around to get any respect in this game. So I can understand why he doesn't want to let it go. And I think he sees guys like Pochettino. Pochettino's never won anything, ever. Mm-hmm. He brought Tottenham to the Champions League final, and they lost. That seems to be, he went over to PSG, did nothing special with them. That's a team that wins Ligue 1 every single season, and they didn't under Mauricio Pochettino.
Yeah.
He goes to Chelsea. Granted, I think it's difficult for anybody to be a success at Chelsea. I mean, so why would he be the guy you want at Manchester United? Is he a better manager than Erik ten Hag? No. Well, but because he's continually linked, it's either this weird carousel of the same 5 names, or they apparently the alternative is to take a total shot in the dark and promote somebody from. You know what this is like, Joe? This is literally like Mike Bassett getting the England job.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
Connor hates when I bring up Mike Bassett because I bring it up all the time. But literally, what was he coaching at Norwich when they were in the lower divisions in the film? He gets the England job. But bizarrely, now I do think Bayern's different though, because they've been trying. They've been trying to get up, and they keep getting turned down. Xabi Alonso said no. They apparently were going to come back to Tuchel and ask him to stay, and he said no. What was it? Hansi Flick didn't want to come back. Nagelsmann didn't want to come back.
Yeah.
So they kind of went down their usual suspects, but it's bad, isn't it, Joe?
Do you know? Just looking as well, right? Just looking at obviously Kieran McKenna's now trending. 3 hours ago, Sky Sports breaking news: Man United have held talks with him. He's held talks with Brighton, with Ipswich apparently as well. Mark Goldbridge saying, If Man United are talking to McKenna as Sky Sports breaking news, it's discussed in 48 hours from the final. Again,
is he going to get up and shout, "Go away"? Go away!
But that's mad, though, to think the 48 hours from the final. But also then, there's obviously past tweets or past stuff being brought from The Athletic. I'll see if I can sort of hone in on it. But these are past exclusives, if you like, from... Oh, you can't see it, can't you? Hang on, let me see. I don't know if you'll make them out, but I'll read them to you. This was, I can't see the dates on it, but this is past stuff from The Athletic when it's gone wrong under Mourinho, under Ole, where Kieran McKenna's been present. It says, Kieran McKenna's coaching sessions have been likened by some sources as more suited to academy football than first-team football, which coincides with your point, what you were saying earlier, these elite pros be like, Ipswich, he's got players that want to...
That's the most toxic job in the country,
exactly.
In my opinion, to go in, because remember... Owners like the Glazers and like Clearlake look at these players as assets. They want them to appreciate and value, then they'll sell them. They will not sell them when they've been depreciated. They're just going to hold until they think the player market rebounds. So the Marcus Rashfords of the world, at the time it was Paul Pogba. I mean, they lost an unfathomable amount of money on Paul Pogba. Manchester United did. What do they have? Martial still at the club. Is he still there? Anthony's still at the club. These are guys that some of them were Erik ten Hag players before, who completely undermined him. They said the same crap about, now they were probably right when it came to Chris Armas, but why is it that every training session is like an academy? Because they're asking you to run, because they're asking you to do things. McKenna would get eaten alive.
Some of these, man, it goes on, right? It goes on. Players feel that training could be led by coaches with greater elite experience. Kieran McKenna's approach can be at times be schoolmastery. The other one says there is particular concern among a section of Man United's squad about the role of Kieran McKenna. Some squad members have been left uninspired by his training sessions. These are the same players that are at the football club, aren't they? Do you know
the same players that have gone through manager after manager. The problem is these players aren't going to get moved because they're not going to be able to be sold for profit. The problem with Chelsea is that you have a bunch of young, disorganized players, a squad that was put together by overspending that isn't a team. It's just a collection of overexpensive players that a manager is going to be expected to go in there with those players, with those cars they drive, with those egos they have, those opinions of themselves, and try to institute a style and discipline. And it's not going to work if they don't, even if they had the credibility. Mourinho's won everything in the game. And he lost. He loses dressing rooms anyway, but the players didn't respect him. One thing I do want to respond to, though, that was in the comments. People were talking about Bielsa being inflexible. And maybe that's true.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. What has been made very clear now in hindsight, and it wasn't at the time, is that Bielsa asked the board over and over and over to change the players out because he knew to play my style, we needed. So that's not being inflexible. I suppose it is, but the inflexibility came from the board. That's what happened. They didn't replace the players. They didn't give him the tools to do the job. So I suppose he could have changed his entire coaching philosophy. But if you're not given the tools to do the job, it's a moot point. And my concern really is that, do I think that a guy like McKenna or Maresca could do the job at a top club? Maybe. But the job at a top club is less about – this is one thing that people don't understand about Ancelotti. Ancelotti is not a micromanager. Nope. He puts the best players on the pitch, gives them instructions, and if there's a clear tactical change that he needs to make to be pragmatic in a match, he makes it. And because he always wins, the players do what he says. That's it. That's literally it. And then he manages the egos and keeps the player power in check. That is a different skill set.
100%.
If you have the backing of like a Manchester City board, then you can be a psychopath like Pep Guardiola and regulate what the players eat, drink, think, and talk about. And I guarantee if one of those players acted out, they'd be out the door or they'd be glued to the bench, which is why players maybe have a runway with him of like 3 or 4 years, and then they get tired of winning everything and playing in a box, and they decide, okay. But like it's rare. Maybe 2 managers in the world could do that, and they're in the ideal situation.
Mate, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they'd asked Jude Bellingham at half-time in the City game or something like. I can't remember which game it was. They said to him, "What did Carlo do or say?"
Oh, nothing.
Well, he said he walked through the dressing room and he yawned. And Jude Bellingham said to him, "Are you tired, boss?" And he turned round and went, "Well, go out there and wake me up then." Do you know what I mean? That was it. That's all he said. Do you know what I mean? And that, like you said, it's a case of just putting the best players on the pitch and giving them, taking that pressure off in a sense. That's what I'm saying. It's mad. Jamie says, I don't understand why elite managers like Mourinho and Conte seem to always be undermined and undervalued as bad managers, yet unproven managers are deemed good for clubs now because of their style of play. Yeah, listen, of course, style's amazing. I get it. Like, I would much rather have style. No, I say style. That's wrong. Give me a few trophies first, and then I can be more selective with I guess what type of football I want to see. But I don't know. Like, look, it's not even about the style that they can provide, and that the real wrangle for me is how they've gotten these jobs. I don't think they deserve them. What hard yards has Vincent Kompany done? In my opinion, I don't get it. What's Wayne Rooney done? I don't.
Wayne Rooney's done nothing but fail. Like, he's the clearest example of somebody who's failing upwards. The thing is about systems football, Joe, and style. System football is good for teams that don't have the money to just buy the best players, right? Unless you're, again, we're talking about, everybody will say, well, Man City, well, Liverpool. Okay, those 2 clubs in world football. 2 examples out of the hundreds and hundreds of clubs that exist. If you're doing systems play, you look at players as interchangeable. And by the way, Pep does. Pep looks at players as profiles. He doesn't care about your ego. If you think you're too big for the club, you will be glued to the bench and you will never play for him again. He's given absolute control. There's nothing Pep Guardiola could do or say. It would have to be really extreme to wrestle control of that club away from him. He is the outlier, not the rule. For the rest of them, the Areolas, the Franks, the mid-table managers, the Dyches, they play a certain way because they have certain resources, right? And they know they can find certain profiles for certain amounts of money to make it work. That's how you stay in the Premier League if you don't have God money. But for teams like Chelsea, for Manchester United, for Arsenal, I mean, it's all about, we're going to spend the money the way we want to spend on the players we want to spend it on, for owners who look at players as assets to sell on for a profit or whatever. Can you make this work? And can you hit our level of success that we want? It's like you can go in and play your style, but you can't really play your style because you don't have players that are tailor-made to do it. You're not going to be able to tell the club who to buy. So in some ways,
the thing with Chelsea,
are poison chalices.
That's all they want. Basically, you're not going to have any say whatsoever on the project at Chelsea. We will give you. You just have to put put them out on the pitch, which I don't think it'll ever work. I genuinely don't. I mean, look, if you're one of these guys, people talk like, I was speaking to Locks about it, and he says, oh, I don't think they'll move, it'll be a bad move, something along them lines. But ultimately, and I think the square ball lads made disappointment, you can go to a big club like Chelsea, Bayern, etc. You know that if it fails in 6 months, like you mentioned, you're getting a massive payoff anyway.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So you can't blame these managers for taking
That's why you do it. It's life-changing money. Like exactly. Kieran McKenna, Maresca, all these guys, they're going to be looking at and saying, okay, I know Allegri's out of work, but by the way Juventus did that was totally unprofessional. It's Juventus are a joke. But point being, like, they're going to, with that payoff, you're talking about like 26-30 million quid.
Mental.
You could, and look what Zidane's doing. I mean, he didn't even get sacked. I mean, the guy won the Champions League, didn't he? And then he said, all right, I'm going to take a break. I know he's made more money in his career than most people could ever dream of. But the point is, you spend 1 year or even a half a season, and now managers are looking for 4-year contracts. That's one of the reasons they do it, because you could easily not work for 10, 11, 12 years if you want. It's life-changing money. I don't know, Joe. I mean, is there a single guy on that list of anybody that's being linked that you would, if you were in a position to make decisions, actually spend the money on?
Which club am I at?
Any of them. Any of the links we've talked about.
The maddest thing, I actually think Kieran McKenna's decent. I do.
But
if I was to
that's
pick
the wrong
any,
job, Manchester United.
If I was to pick any, I'd genuinely go Thomas Frank.
Yeah, maybe. He's managed big players before. I mean, there's nobody with a bigger ego than Ivan Toney.
Ivan Toney, exactly.
That guy literally in the middle of the season making jokes about how he won't be back and betting on games. And I mean, what a clown. Probably. But I'm
seeing reports that Ruben Amorim's talking to Chelsea as well, but the names, it's constantly changing at fucking Chelsea.
I don't think Maresca's going to Chelsea. I can't see it. I can't see it.
Obviously, I think Kompany Bayern's done, right? It looks like Rooney will end up at Plymouth. Who do you think gets the Chelsea job? Do you think these have all been like red herrings and they want Ruben Amorim? Obviously, Manchester United now, because Chelsea have sacked Poch, everyone's looking in the same circles, right? Everyone's looking in the same circles. So now Man United have sort of like pushed theirs forward a little bit and said, shit, we need to get active because Chelsea might take the best option or whatever. Will any of them be a success?
I don't think any of them would be a success. I think that the one I'm going to enjoy the most is Rooney at Plymouth Argyle, because I think he's just a cantankerous little prick, and it's just going to be funny to watch him fail and continue to blame other people for it. This is going to sound wild, and it won't happen, because I think Pochettino's out the door at Chelsea not because of footballing results. I mean, he got them back into Europe. I think it's more about philosophy and how clearly they want to operate. So
I think Pochettino wanted more say on the players as well, right?
Exactly. So because of that, I would say these two would never work. But if I were Todd Bowley and I wanted to win back the fans, I would bring back Antonio Conte or Jose Mourinho. That's what I'd do. Because those are two Chelsea legends. They won't do it because I'm pretty sure, it's all about Clear Lake and their philosophy or whatever. What's weird, Joe, to me is that, like, the trusting the process and, like, sort of not tanking, but miring yourself in mediocrity a little bit to invest in young players to ultimately be good. It doesn't work in American sports either very often. So, like, I've been hearing a lot of people.
Why do you think that?
I think it's about money.
It's money, innit? It's flipping these players, man. It's flipping these players.
I don't even. Maybe it's flipping, but the thing is, they're also spending a lot of money on players as well. Wild, so I don't really understand the philosophy. I know that investment groups often operate that as a loss. But
Roman Abramovich came in and says, "I don't care if you're not working, I'll sack you." But this Chelsea thing, like, this new, I don't understand the work. Like, I don't even think Chelsea fans get it at this moment in time, because Pochettino started to get a tune out of them, got them into Europe. They were actually in the top 4 after the turn of the year, like in terms of form. The players liked him. You've seen the reaction from Cole Palmer, from Nicholas Jackson on their social medias. They were good. He was going to start to do bits. You're now going to rip that up and give a young upstart in a Kieran McKenna and Enzo Maresca next. Like, I don't understand it. Look, whatever you say about Roman and Chelsea at that time, they fucking won. Sorry for swearing, but they won. They won Champions Leagues. They won FA Cups. They won leagues. Mm-hmm. Under this new guys, that is not happening at all. I just can't see it. Can't see it. How can you go, right? Listen, it'd be an elitist of elitist managers, and I would take my hat off. But let's say Enzo, McKenna get the job. How can they go from getting a team promoted and then all of a sudden getting Chelsea Champions League trophies, getting Premier? This is a totally different ball game.
Yeah, I think the one thing I would point to, and this is not to diminish any accomplishments by, Manchester United in their heyday up until, the 2010s, or Chelsea throughout their Abramovich era. But the money situation in the Premier League was not, the best teams spent the most money and developed players through their academy. Now, that's not happening that way. Manchester City is who they are because of the money they spend, simply put. And because and part of that money was spending money on a guy like Pep Guardiola. Liverpool have sort of gotten lucky because even though they spent big money, they, in my opinion, I don't know where you say on this. It's kind of a weird conversation, not original what we're talking about, but I would rather have Jurgen Klopp than Pep Guardiola, because I think Pep Guardiola has to have the most perfect pieces to make his system work, and he has to have absolute like iron grip on everything. Whereas I think Klopp sometimes, not always the case, but improves his players as well, and it's less about just a system. They have more individual freedom. Anyway, point being, but now
you just have to look at Calvin. You have to look at Calvin as a perfect example of that, mate. You're right.
Yeah, outside of those two teams, I think Arsenal have done really well to be as in contention as they are. But when you look at that ownership group, they're also absurdly wealthy. It's another American ownership group at Arsenal. So you've got the Henry Group at the in Liverpool. You've got Manchester United owned by the Glazers. You have Arsenal owned by the Cronkies, I think it is, and then you have the Emiratis owning. It's a completely different situation now. You don't have the time to develop and introduce young talent into your teams slowly over a period of time. You don't have the time to invest in young players. Like a Cristiano Ronaldo buy nowadays would never work. Bringing him in from Porto and letting him learn his trade, because they would say, we need you to be ready now, because if we lose one match, we're not going to win the league. You know what I mean? It's almost like that now. So it's not to say it doesn't take anything away from what Chelsea did under the Abramovich ownership. It's just a different ball game now. Right. And I think, that being said, I don't understand what the strategy is for Chelsea. No. I sort of wonder if these investors are looking to declare losses, and so they can, under tax season, they can be okay. I don't know.
Honestly,
it's wild.
Mad. It's mad. Yeah. Oyo over here says Rooney failed because the players are bought into Eustace's game plan and were pissed he got the sack starting Nah, you're being far too kind. Why
did he not succeed at DC United with a really good team?
Yeah, it's Rooney failed because he's shit. Basically, he's shit.
Really good team, a decent team.
I'm not having that these players just turned it in and willingly got relegated. Jordan James, for example, who's at Birmingham, top player. I think Cage spoke about him on a video earlier on as well. I didn't watch it, but Jordan James, top player at Birmingham. He had other good players at Birmingham City. I'm not having that they just threw the towel in for how was it, like nearly half a season that Rooney was there? Like, how long was he there for, Gabe? I can't remember.
I don't even know. But
I'm not having that.
Half a season. Yeah, I mean they went from a decent. And here's the thing,
they were top six when he came in.
But no players want to be relegated. No players want to fail. Like, that's the thing, that they're professionals. They want to succeed, and look, Wayne Rooney stinks as a manager.
It's bad, man.
It was a bad appointment.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And look, like Carrick at Borough Robbins is building something very good at Coventry, remember? Yeah, listen, it'll be interesting. It's going to be when we talk about managerial merry-go-round, I genuinely didn't think it would involve Enzo Maresca, Kieran McKenna, Vincent Kompany, and Wayne Rooney. Like, this is the
doesn't
maddest
seem real.
No, this is what I don't understand. But then, like you were saying, the shake-up, who else is out there anymore? Because no one wants the perceived dinosaurs anymore in your Contes and Mourinhos because they're too... I guess it's an old brand of manager. I heard Souness speaking about it on Simon Jordan saying he couldn't do it anymore because you can't almost get angry with these players anymore.
Well, he couldn't do it anymore because he also wasn't a great manager, but agreed.
No, true.
He probably couldn't personality-wise.
Yeah, exactly. Like your Fergusons might not even work today because of how angry
Roy couldn't work today.
You know?
Roy had a difficult time. Roy Keane. I think Roy Keane's a good football mind. I think he's a decent manager, actually.
Yeah.
But there's no way could the modern player respond to Roy Keane. No way. And at some point, by the way, I saw a Vega's comment there, so I'll wind up. Vega, you clearly watched the Tom Brady roast, and I loved it. Joe, did you watch that, by the way, the Tom Brady roast on Netflix?
To be honest, I don't know enough about Tom Brady. You
don't have to, mate. Do yourself a favor.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
If anything, just do a cutout of Jesse Marsh's face and put it on your television screen.
It's the same guy, yeah?
It'll give you unique enjoyment, and you'll last all day.
I'll get on it. I definitely will.
Honestly, think about players, right? So there's a reason why a Crescencio Somerville wouldn't be getting an £80 million transfer to Arsenal or to Manchester United or to Manchester City. It's not because he's not good enough. It's because you don't take somebody who scored a handful of goals in the Premier League and had a really good championship season, really good, exceptional, deserves the awards he won, and expect him to walk into a top 4 team, in one of the top 5 or 6, 7, 8 teams in the world, because it's not a realistic expectation. So it's also not realistic to say that a manager who got, what's next? Are they going to appoint Wrexham's manager? Give him the Leeds United job. Like it's nonsense. It's nonsense. And I'm actually struggling for words about it, Joe, because it's so weird. I've never seen anything like it. Where
mad, isn't it? Mad.
And I understand it's like it is funny. Somebody mentioned it in the comments. Why isn't Farke being tipped for any of these jobs? I'll tell you why. Because he's failed in the Premier League, and so they're like, okay, well, like he's failed in the Premier League, he failed in the Bundesliga, and they understand that just doing well in the Championship isn't good enough to appoint somebody. So why would that not be the case for Maresca and McKenna? I know they didn't. I'm not saying they, but all that's different is that you have a track record of Farke other places, but their level of achievement in the Championship, it would lead you to believe that maybe this isn't a good indicator of your ability at the top level.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Exactly, because it's almost similar achievement, right? It's not, it's not like, well, I guess McKenna with the League One squad, blah, 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 but I get it, I hear it. Enzo should have finished.
Brian Clough, by the way, you see that comment? Throw all your medals and all into the bin.
Do you know what, though? We need to spare a thought as well for Ipswich Town, really. Like, spare a thought for them, They've got back-to-back, boom, they get to the Premier League finally. Let's go, let's give it, after so many years out, and they're going to have the rug pulled underneath them. What do they do, Burnley, I know firsthand, having a group chat, part of a 12-man group chat, Natalie, who's a Burnley fan's raging, because it's like, we kept fit. She actually wanted him gone because she said, we need someone who could keep us in the league. They've gone from keeping with this guy, probably hoping he gets them straight back up, to now finding he's going to get a Champions League job. Like, I feel sorry for Burnley fans, I feel sorry for Ipswich fans. Not so much Leicester fans, because they cheated, but yeah.
Do you know what's interesting? I know we talked a little bit about what factors into some of these decisions. Do in the States, so there's this manager, Pellegrino Matarazzo. He's American. Coaches in the Bundesliga. Never linked to the USA job.
Okay.
Never, the manager of Hoffenheim. Overachieved them. Kept them up. Brought them into various competitions, played really well. Never linked to the job. There's something about native language, having the network, being friends with the guys in influential decisions, And it's the opposite of how you would expect something competitive like sport to work. It's jobs for the boys. And I think what's interesting to me is there's all sorts of chatter and misconception around programs that are designed to widen candidate pools. I work in this field. And really what these programs do is it makes sure you're seeing people outside the old boys network. That's what it does. And it's weird to me that football, a place that purports itself to be a true meritocracy, has so many just terrible, and I'm not saying the guys that are linked to the job are terrible, but we've seen, like, I mean,
it's wild decisions though, Gabe. It's wild decisions that they're making.
Joey Barton had a manager position last year, didn't he?
Yeah,
I mean, what about him makes you think that he'd be a decent manager? Known for assaulting people and hitting players on the pitch and red cards.
Yeah.
It's a joke. It's a joke. Yeah. I think now it's becoming very obvious that maybe these ownership groups, maybe they don't know what they're doing so much.
Nah. It makes, to be honest, I sometimes look at it and go, how the fuck did they earn all the money? Because I just don't.
That'll surprise you.
Yeah. the Chelsea.
You don't have to be smart to be rich. I'll tell you that right now.
No, fair. That's a good point. Analytics and data becoming a big part of football. No old school manager wants to listen to nerd tell him he needs to have his player young man. Yeah. It may be. Good point. Maybe.
I don't. But hang on, the realist. I don't actually think that's true. Most managers in this day and age, and even the older managers, they have people that tell them analytics wise, and they know what the players are capable of. And part of it is like, there's a reason why guys like Mourinho track biometric data. I mean, Sam Allardyce did interviews from the Leeds podcast bragging about how he's one of the pioneers of data, which, by the way, isn't true. But he did make that bragging point.
He did bring some stuff with.
He did,
Bolton,
but he wasn't. But he wasn't the pioneer of data. This stuff was happening. But the point being, I think what the realist is saying is that he doesn't want to be told. I don't think any old school manager wants to be told by an owner who's like semi into data analytics exactly who they're going to buy. They have little to no say in it. Because you're right. They're saying, okay, so I'm going to live or die what these players do. I don't even get to pick my players. That's not a functional model.
It's mad. It is mad. How do you see it? How do you see it unfolding, mate? Who's going to go where? Does Enzo stay at Leicester?
I think McKenna will go to Brighton because I think De Zerbi's gone.
Yeah.
I think De Zerbi's going to end up.
You don't think he gets the Man United job?
No, it's not that I don't think he. I think he's, from what I have heard, and I think the most concrete links I've seen is Brighton for McKenna, and I actually think that's a very apt choice. I think that'd be good for him. It's a big step up, no doubt, but I think he'd be wise to take that. I will be in a state of disarray if he gets the Manchester United job, or and the same thing with Maresca and Chelsea. Wayne Rooney is going to fail in the championship. I have no doubt about that. And Vincent Kompany, I mean, I guess we'll see. He's going to have the best players in the Bundesliga. So I guess we'll see how he does. But I'm
going to call it now. They all fail.
They all fail?
Rooney will fail. Kompany will fail. And whoever gets the Chelsea job will fail.
Where do you think McKenna goes? Do you think he goes Man United?
I think he might go Manchester United just based on the last couple of hours. But it depends on if Ten Hag can somehow pull a miracle out on Sunday, which I don't think he will. I still think they should sack Ten Hag because he's absolutely woeful. But if he wins the FA Cup, I don't think they can, really.
The thing is, in Ten Hag, I guess that's a whole separate video we could do. But Manchester United need to send players out and appoint a manager who's not delusional. I don't think either of which happen.
He's mad, isn't he? He's absolutely mad. He is. Well, Gabe, we've managed to squeeze an hour out of this, by the way. Madness.
Yeah, we've done well.
We've done well. We've done well.
Venting about managers who don't deserve the jobs.
Crazy. The sorry state of football management right now.
Let me ask you a question before we go. Speaking about this may be a little bit controversial, right? But how do you feel about YouTubers popping up on TalkSport? And are you at all envious?
Who are we talking? Like who?
I don't want to. It's your channel. I don't want to name names.
Like Goldbridge and all that.
A Goldbridge and a certain Chelsea guy who's known more for saying wacky things than he is for actually offering real knowledge.
No, do you know what I think?
It's part of my feeling. It's being gamified just for it's sort of the space is changing, 100%. And it seems more about margins than it is for actual substance. Again,
all you need to do now, right? So basically, 10 years time. It'll all be fun. It'll all be fun, in my opinion. Maybe not even that far. And the reason I say that is all you need to do now is look on Sky Sports YouTube. Their thumbnails are like my thumbnails, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is Sky Sports. They understand now. No one, and I think it's a good thing that no one wants to hear from some ex-pro who, half of the time, they know more than me. Of course they do. They played the game and that. But I'm just not convinced. I just think similar like manager jobs, they get these jobs in the studio when actually they just talk shit. We have seen that in the Championship where they've gone, oh yeah, he's played well this season. And you're like, he's barely played. What
do you remember who was doing it on Sky? I was talking about Joe Rodon. I was like, yeah, he's dropped from his usual defensive midfield position. Joe Rodon.
That's what I'm
saying. Been a massive signing from them from Tottenham. Yeah. Usually plays the holding midfield position. I'm like, come on, you can't confuse Rodon with Ampadu and say it so confidently. Like,
it's mad. I think fan content is going that way. Sky Sports, BT, they're all doing it for me, bro. And
I wish they would just draw the line between analysis and entertainment. Like, I don't have any issue platforming entertainers, but the problem is it's sort of like with news here in America. You have commentary shows overlapping with news, and people don't draw the difference. For me, it's not good if you're tuning in to hear. Like, I mean, next thing we're gonna have some a bunch of YouTubers live calling the game. Like, sorry, I know I'm in the space. I don't think I'm qualified. I don't have a broadcast journalism degree. Like, I don't think I'm there to be able to do that kind of thing. So it's kind of weird. It seems to now it's being reflected everywhere in football, though, including management, which is what this video was about. But, it's wild, isn't it? I mean, the good news, Joe, is maybe you'll get a big contract. I'll be happy.
If they want to pay me, mate, I'll be there. You
can be shouting like George Bailey from It's a Wonderful Life when Leeds score.
Exactly, man. Carlos here says, Joe, you were classed the other day by a Southampton fan as our goal bridge. Mate, I'll take it. I couldn't give a shit.
Not a bad one.
Goldbridge is probably a millionaire.
I think he's all right.
Yeah, he's probably a millionaire. So if he wants to sort me some of his cash out as well, we'll be there, Carlos. We'll be there. It is what it is. As our Goldbridge. To be honest,
when I did the go away impression, go away.
Yeah. Nice, great. It is what it is. I don't care. Throw the hate. I'm doing this as a job. I'm living the dream. Fuck it. It is what it is. Gabe, thank you. I was going to say thank you for giving up your evening. Well, is it your afternoon?
Yeah, it's about mid-evening. I'm going to go out and get a bite to eat.
Nice. I'm going to go
6:30 here. Yeah,
I'm going to go
with the dog snoring at your side.
Yeah. It's 11:37 right now. So yeah, I'm gonna go to bed. But listen, thanks everyone for tuning in. Tomorrow I'll be live. Dinner time-ish because press conferences tomorrow. The last press conference of the season starts at 1:30, so I'll be live about 2:15. So yeah, I'll do that. So smash a like on the video. Follow Gabe on Twitter. Go check him out on One Leeds as well. I think I'm on One Leeds tomorrow evening actually as well.
I like this new show you guys are doing. You're not disagreeing as much as I thought you would.
Yeah,
that's kind of how the show was framed. Is that you'd sort of have
counterpoint,
counterpoint positions. You're mostly disagreeing. It's a giant love fest. It's weirding me out.
Yes, yeah, exactly. At the minute, we should have started it earlier on in the season when he was Fark-out and I was not having it. That'd have been mate.
Well, was he ever Fark-out? He wasn't Fark-out. He was critical of Fark-out, but no,
he was Fark-out without saying he was Fark-out, bro.
No.
Big up to Matisse, Big up, man. Thank you for watching, brother. Legend, mate. Legend. He was Fark-out without saying he was Fark-out.
No, he wasn't Fark-out. He was very we both were very critical of some of the decisions Fark-out was making, but we weren't Fark-out.
You were both Fark-out without saying you were Fark-out.
No, we weren't. Hey, the only score I keep of you is when you were talking about the ownership. The 49ers will know about this. The 49ers will be involved. The summer was a great period for you with the 49ers conspiracy theories. Now you love them, and I love that. You're like, I'm not convinced about the 49ers.
A thing actually came up the other day on my TikTok. I don't use it now because it's just shit. I tried to, but I can't.
Yeah,
but did you ever see the one I made of Parag Marate, the bullshit man, Carl Pilkington?
No.
Did you not see that?
No, I didn't, but I do know bullshit, man, and I do know like Superpower.
Right,
I just
okay,
show a bullshit man called bullshit. That's
yeah. So I'll show it you afterwards, bro. But basically, when all that was going on, it was Parag Marate sat there, right, and he goes, "I do contracts in my sleep." Then I had it cut to Carl Pilkington and him going,
I do remember this. That's
and he
right.
came in and he went, bullshit. And I was,
Yeah.
and now, I'm like, yeah, I got that wrong. He can do contracts in his sleep. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, those contracts were good, but even I didn't think they were that great. I do remember you having me on. I kind of had to talk you off a ledge that these contracts wouldn't be terrible.
I was done with them, man. I was done with them.
You were upset.
Yeah. And just on this as well. Yeah, he's not been great.
Look, we're not bringing this back up because he's got a final to play. We want him to come up big, and he did come big against Josh Sargent. We'll talk in the offseason, I'm sure, about whether he's Premier League ready or a second season in the Championship.
Here's a point for you,
for
though,
now,
right?
we just hope he does well.
Here's a point for you, Gabe.
Well, right.
That I said to you. Do you remember when I said he was the best keeper in the league? As a throwaway line, I went, he's the best keeper in the league.
I didn't let it be a throwaway line. I fixated.
No,
on
I know
that
you were on me, right?
Yeah,
but
like a pit bull.
After the game, after the game with the save, he actually said he's the best keeper in the league. So
what's Farke going to say? He's the worst keeper in the league?
No, I hear you, but my point I'm making is I don't agree.
Family Chocolate Factory makes the best chocolate.
My opinion has changed. He's no longer the best keeper in the league.
Okay.
But
second best keeper in the league, is it?
He's in the top one. He's not the best keeper in the league, but he's in the top one. That's
All
actually a Clough line, actually. That, but anyway,
50 goals and 30 stars.
Does that worry you that he will still be around though, because of Farke saying that, or do you think he's?
Listen, I do not want to jinx any of it. I'm not a superstitious man. Everyone knows this. In fact, I make fun of Connor and Oscar whenever they bring up any superstition. But I'm buying into it now because I constantly get accused of othering myself in Leeds United circles. So I'm just going to join in on the superstition and be like, but between you and I, if we were talking about Milan Ilie, I would say that I would like a different keeper next season.
Yeah, I think so too.
But for this season, I'm happy for this next match. Let's go, Elon.
We didn't even get to speak on the game. Are you confident for Sunday?
I don't know what to think. It's
I'm the same.
This is like when I learned about chaos mathematics and realized that math was more theory than it is fixed construct. It completely blew my mind then. And watching playoffs, I've given up on.
You just lost me with that line, mate. I don't know what you just said.
Start YouTubing chaos mathematics, and
okay.
Just if you want to put yourself to sleep in frustration. But no, honestly, I'm predicting we're a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde team. We either score on teams early and we win the match and dominate the match, or we're reactive and slow and we don't take its teams. So I think if we move quickly and we play fast and don't linger on the ball and score early, I think we walk that game 3-1. If we don't, if it's 45th minute, we haven't scored a goal, I'm worried, really worried.
Yeah, I think 1-0 either way. 1-0 either way. 1-0 either.
1-0, really? You don't? I don't think it's built for 1-0.
Playoff finals historically over the last couple of seasons have.
If it's 1-0, then Southampton wins.
Yeah, maybe.
If it's 1-0, Southampton wins.
I seen it. Someone was on earlier, and we did a preview. There was 6 of us, and Andrew Stats Dalton had said to Jer on his preview, the last. I can't remember the stat now, but it was something like the last so many. The goal was scored by number 3.
Yeah,
and that's our Junior Fairport. And Dominic mentions the redemption man. If he scores the winner, that would be amazing. I can't remember the stat now, so it's sort of rubbish. I'm going to see if I can.
I hope he scores the winner. I hope any of our players. Look, who's the player I've liked the least on our entire team and don't understand? Joffe. I would love for Joffe to come off the bench and score the winner. I just want to win and get promoted. I don't care who does it. I'll build a statue for him for all I care. Ilan Melia, game-winning save. Build him a statue. I don't care. I just want to see Leeds United get promoted.
He was it.
I don't want to be in
this
this crap
is the
division
stat.
anymore.
Are you ready for the stat? Get your money on Junior Fairport or Joel Pirro scoring at Wembley. Players wearing the number 3 shirt have scored 3 times at Wembley. Cooper in 68, Trevor Cherry in 74, and Tony Dorigo in 92.
Joe, are you sure you're going to bed after this? Are you going to open up some pig's innards and throw them down into some sort of altar and call down the spirits of the dead?
Cantona obviously played for Leeds United, where in 7 scored a hat-trick in 92. So that's Joe Pirro. But I'm genuinely, based on this stat, going to stick a fiver on Junior Firpo anytime. And he's 18-1, by the way. So why not?
Oh,
18,
yeah,
good odds.
Yeah, good odds.
Also, here's another stat for you, bro. Here's another stat. Leeds' last win at Wembley came in a general election year.
Okay, I want everybody to hear this on your channel, right?
They can.
For all the times that Joe...
Joe, you're not Lettice, mate.
I love it. For all the times Joe comes at me for weird stats, Joe has just uttered the most terrible, useless, nonsensical. It's not even stats. It's just random coincidental facts that I'm having to know history. It's amazing. And by the way,
in the stars. It's written in the stars.
Hat off to you because that was splendid. Good Lord.
It was. Right.
Joe's off to do a seance.
Yes, yeah. To be honest, I'm going to bed. I'm going to watch the Big Six, and then I'm going to go to bed. You're going to eat some tea. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow. Say bye to Gabe, and we'll see you again soon. Peace out, folks. Bye-bye.